I was 17 the day they buried my father. The world felt like it had gone mute. No birds, no wind, just the mechanical click of shoes on tile as we walked into St. Mary's Church. I held my little brother Danny's hand so tightly he whimpered, but I didn't let go. He was only 9, trembling like a leaf, clutching Dad's dog tags in his other hand. My mother? She was pale, silent, composed, but not in a graceful way. More like frozen. Closed casket, the priest whispered gently, "It's for the best." I didn't understand it at the time. Why couldn't we say goodbye properly? Why couldn't we see him? They said it was a car crash, a fireball. He died on impact, they told us. The body is unrecognizable, the officer had explained, avoiding eye contact with my mom. We used dental records to confirm. But even then, something didn't feel right. I remember sitting on the hard pew, flanked by relatives we hadn't seen in years. People who came to perform grief. They dabbed their eyes and whispered condolences, but it felt hollow, because none of them knew him. Not really. Not like we did. He was the kind of dad who danced like a lunatic in the kitchen at 6 a.m. He played guitar badly, but sang even worse. He taught me how to change a tire, punch a bully, and make scrambled eggs the right way. And then, just like that, he was gone. But the cracks were already there. Like how the insurance took forever to come through. Administrative delay, they said. Or how there was no police report that we could access, still under investigation. Or how, just a week before the crash, my dad had suddenly cashed out his 401k. My mom thought it was for debt. I wasn't so sure. After the funeral, our house turned cold. Not physically. We still had heating, but emotionally. Mom barely spoke. She spent hours in their room, sometimes curled up on the floor, sometimes staring out the window like she was waiting for something, or someone, to come back. One night, I heard her whispering through the wall, "Why'd you do this to us?" I thought she was praying. I realize now she wasn't. Danny stopped talking for a while. He used to be this vibrant, annoying little kid who never shut up. After the funeral, he barely left his bed. I caught him sleeping in Dad's closet once, wearing his old sweatshirt, the sleeves driving along the floor. I took a job at the gas station after school. The bills kept coming, and Mom wasn't working anymore. It wasn't glamorous, mopping floors, dealing with drunk customers, but it helped. Barely. Most nights, I'd fall asleep in my clothes, too tired to even dream. And then one day, 3 years later, I walked into a coffee shop across town. Just a normal Tuesday at Rainy. I wanted a hot drink before class. I stood in line behind a couple with 2 kids, a little boy and girl giggling over cake pops. The man had a deep laugh. Familiar. Too familiar. And then he turned around. My heart stopped. It was him. My dad. Looking older, maybe a little grayer, but alive. Wearing a black jacket and holding a vanilla latte. He kissed the woman next to him on the temple, called her babe, and ruffled the little boy's hair. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. He was supposed to be dead, but there he was, alive, laughing, with a brand new family. I didn't confront him. Not then. I couldn't. My knees were shaking, and I thought I might vomit. The barista asked for my order twice before I realized she was talking to me. I pointed at a random drink and stumbled outside, heart pounding in my ears like a war drum. Was I going insane? I stood across the street, hidden under the awning of a closed bookstore, and watched as he walked out, holding the little girl in one arm, laughing with the woman beside him. She looked happy, carefree, like someone whose husband didn't fake his death to escape his real family. I followed them. I know how that sounds, stalkerish, obsessive. But I had to. I needed to know where he lived. I needed to see if this was real, not some grief-induced hallucination. They lived in a blue 2-story house with flower beds and wind chimes and a mailbox that said the Bennetts. Bennetts, not McCarthy's. I watched him kiss the woman goodbye before she drove off in an SUV. He carried the kids inside, whistling some tune. And just like that, the door closed. My father, the man we mourned, cried for, starved for, was home. But not with us. I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake replaying everything in my head. The funeral, the questions, the things I never dared ask my mom, the nights she cried without sound, the way she flinched every time someone mentioned his name. I should have been angry, furious. Instead, I felt numb. Until I went back. 2 days later, I returned to the house. This time, I waited until dusk. I stood by the sidewalk, hidden behind a tree, heart racing. And then he stepped outside, taking out the trash. Same gait, same haircut, same whistle. I stepped forward. Dad, he froze, turned. And then it happened. He looked right at me, straight in my eyes, and didn't flinch. Not even a twitch, just this quiet, calculated stare. like I was a stranger. "Can I help you?" he said. My mouth went dry. My tongue refused to move. I felt like I'd been sucker punched in the chest. "You don't recognize me?" I finally choked. He narrowed his eyes. "Should I?" I stepped closer. "It's me, Claire." He didn't blink. "Sorry, I think you got the wrong person." And then, the final blow. A voice from inside. "Honey, who is it?" He turned, called back over his shoulder. "Just someone lost." Then he shut the door, right in my face. I didn't go home right away. I sat in my car for what felt like hours, staring at my hands like they didn't belong to me. My heart had become a dull ache. I kept hearing his voice in my head, "Just someone lost." Like I was a stranger. Like I'd never meant anything. When I finally pulled into our driveway, it was almost midnight. The porch light was on. Mom was waiting. She sat in the living room, curled under Dad's old blanket, her glasses on, a closed book in her lap, not reading, just holding it. "You're late," she said quietly. "I saw him," I said. "He's alive." She didn't move, didn't flinch. She just stared at the coffee table. And I knew. "You knew," I whispered. "Oh my God, you knew." She stood up slowly, walked to the kitchen. I followed. Her hands trembled slightly as she poured water. She didn't look at me. "When?" I asked, already knowing I'd hate the answer. "When did you find out?" She set the glass down. 3 months after the funeral. I froze. "That was 4 years ago," I said. 4 years. You let us believe he was dead." "I didn't want to," she said. Her voice was quiet. "He sent a letter. No return address. He said it was better this way. That he needed to live differently." "You just accepted that?" I asked. "You let him leave us behind." She shook her head. "I was afraid if I pushed, he'd disappear completely. I thought it was safer not to stir things up." I stared at her, stunned. "You didn't protect us. You protected him." She looked at me, really looked at me. Her eyes were full of old sadness. I was trying to keep what was left of this family together. I didn't respond, because for the first time in my life, I didn't recognize the woman standing in front of me. I didn't speak to my mom for 3 days. Not a word. I moved around the house like a ghost, ignoring her attempts at small talk, pretending I didn't hear when she knocked on my door. She left little notes on the counter, made lasagna, laundry's done. "Hope your exam went okay." I threw them all away. It wasn't just betrayal. It was humiliation. He had faked his death, faked it, and then built a new life while we were drowning. And she helped him get away with it. She buried the truth the way we buried his empty casket. I couldn't let it go. So I started digging. I skipped class. I called the DMV, pretending to be doing a background check for a job interview. No records under the name John McCarthy after his death. But when I searched Daniel Bennett, the name on that mailbox, I found something. A recent driver's license, issued just 2 years ago. Same birth date as my dad. Same height, same eye color. Different name, different life. I dug deeper. Property records, utility bills, tax documents. He had officially changed identities. No legal trace of the past. But he'd made one mistake. On the kid's school enrollment form listed under emergency contact was a phone number, a real one. I called it. It rang 3 times. "Hey, this is Dan. Leave a message." His voice, clear, confident, alive. I wanted to scream, but I had a better idea. I created a new Instagram account. Fake name, no posts, just a message. "Hey, Dan Bennett, does your real family know what you did?" He didn't reply, but he read it. I watched the little scene notification pop up. A minute later, the profile blocked me. Gone. Coward. I wanted more. So I drove back to his house, this time during the day. I waited until his wife, or whatever she was, drove off with the kids. Then I marched right up to the door and rang the bell. No answer. I rang again, and again. Finally, he opened it, wearing a t-shirt, hair messy, barefoot. "Claire," he said, not even pretending this time. "You remember me now?" I snapped. He sighed. "What do you want?" "I want to know why." He didn't answer, just leaned against the doorframe and stared at the sky like it held answers. "You left us to rot," I said. "Danny still talks to your picture like you're some kind of saint. He still thinks you were the hero." "That's why I left," he muttered. "To give you that." "Bullshit." He looked me in the eyes. "I was drowning. Your mom and I, we hated each other. The debt, the stress, the fighting. I couldn't breathe. I wanted out. So you faked your death." My voice cracked. "You burned your entire family for a fresh start?" "I saved myself," he said. And that was when I knew. He wasn't sorry. He never was. I don't remember driving home. I was so full of rage I could barely keep the car on the road. His words kept echoing in my head. I saved myself. Like we were some kind of weight dragging him down. Like his family, his children, were a prison he needed to escape. When I got home, Danny was in the living room watching old home videos. I froze in the doorway. There he was, younger, smaller, laughing as Dad chased him around the yard. I stood there, watching the version of our father who once mattered. The man who used to lift Danny onto his shoulders. The man who stayed up until 3 a.m. helping me finish my science project. But he wasn't real. Not anymore. Danny turned and smiled. Hey, remember this one? I couldn't speak, just nodded, my throat burning. He looked so hopeful, so unbroken, so innocent. And it hit me like a freight train. I couldn't tell him. Not yet. I couldn't be the one to shatter what little was left of that childlike belief. Not when he still wore Dad's jacket like armor. Not when he still looked at that headstone every Christmas like it meant something. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, heart pounding. I wanted revenge. I wanted the world to know who Dan Bennett really was. But more than anything, I wanted him to feel it, to feel what we felt. And I realized something. He hadn't just abandoned us. He replaced us. Same father, new kids. Same man, different name. And he thought he could walk away without consequences. But not anymore. I made a plan. It started with a message to the school where his new kids were enrolled. Anonymous. Simple. Do you do background checks on your volunteers? Dan Bennett isn't who he says he is. I sent similar emails to local community pages, parenting groups, even his job. I found it on LinkedIn. I didn't say much, just planted the seed. Let curiosity and gossip do the rest. It wasn't about destroying his new life. It was about forcing him to acknowledge the one he left behind. And the next time I went to his house, I wouldn't be alone. Danny didn't ask questions when I told him we were going for a drive. He trusted me. He always had. Where are we going? He asked as we pulled out of the driveway. Just somewhere I need you to see, I said. He wore Dad's jacket, the same faded army green one from when we were kids. It swallowed him now when he didn't care. It still smelled like our childhood, like gasoline and soap and something unnameable, something like love that vanished too soon. The drive was quiet. I kept stealing glances at him. He was older now, 13, but still soft in the eyes. Still believed in magic. Still believed in Dad. And I hated myself for what I was about to do. When we turned onto the street with the blue house, Danny frowned. I don't get it. What are we doing here? I parked 2 houses away. Danny, my voice trembled. There's something I need you to see. Just, please don't freak out, okay? He blinked, confused. Claire, you're scaring me. I'm sorry, I whispered. And then the front door opened. There he was, Dan Bennett, our father, carrying a trash bag to the curb. Danny went still. His mouth parted, but no sound came out. He stared like he'd seen a ghost. Dad, he breathed. The man looked up. His eyes locked on us. I stepped out of the car. Remember us now? I said, loud enough for the neighborhood to hear. He froze. Danny stumbled out behind me, voice cracking. Is that really you? Dad? The man stepped back toward the porch. What are you doing here? You lied, I said. To everyone. And now he knows. Danny was crying, his whole body shaking. You said you loved us, he sobbed. Why did you leave? What did we do? I wanted him to answer, to explain, to apologize. But instead, he looked over his shoulder, like checking if anyone was watching, and turned back to us with steel in his eyes. Leave, now, or I call the cops. Danny gasped. What? I mean it, he barked. You're trespassing. I have a family to protect. A family. I spat. You had a family. You buried us. He didn't flinch. He didn't even look at Danny. Just stepped inside, slammed the door, and locked it. Click. Just like that. Danny collapsed onto the curb, sobbing into his sleeves. Why doesn't he want us? I knelt beside him, holding him as tightly as I could, and I whispered the only truth that made sense anymore. Because he's not the dad we knew. He died a long time ago.